Alright guys, so we pretty much are done with the back end. We created our routes and our model and so on. So now we want to work on the front end, which we're going to use Vue.js. Now if you want to see your back end routes, you can actually use artisan. So if we say PHP artisan route and list, you'll see that to make a post or to add a contact, we can make a post request to API contact store, get request to API/contact ID to get the single contact, patch request to update, delete, and so on. So now what we're going to do is go over here and open up resources and go into assets and then JS and open up app.js. And you can see that we're bringing in Vue here, and then it has this example component for Vue. And if we look in components, there's an example file. Now with Vue.js, what we can do is create a template. You can see this is wrapped in template tags, and it's just HTML. And we can actually have dynamic variables in here if we want. And then down here, we define a script with a class. All right, and then we can define functions or methods within this class. Mounted is actually kind of like a lifecycle method if you've ever worked with React or Angular, and this fires off automatically. All right, and it will just say component mounted. And then to put your component inside your view, for instance, if we went into a view and we put this is called example, so we could say example like that, and it would show the component. All right, but we're not going to use this example. I just wanted to show you it as an example. All right, so in order to process or compile all these assets, we need to do we can do npm run dev, and that'll compile it once, or we can do watch, which will continuously watch the assets folder. So we're going to go ahead and run that. That way we don't have to keep running it after every single change. And then while that's going on, we're going to, let's see, we're going to create a new file in the components folder here. And we're going to call this contacts.vue. Okay, make sure you give it a view file extension. And then just like the example, we're going to have template tag. Okay, and then in here, let's just put in h1. Actually, you know what? I'm going to install the Vue plugin for Atom so that we can get the correct highlighting and so on. So if you want to do that, we can go to settings and then install. Search for Vue. And if you're using Sublime Text, I believe there's also a package you can use. Let's see. Packages, language view. So this is what we want right here, language view. So I'm going to click install. All right, so that should be all set. Let's close that up, and now you can see we have highlighting. All right, so in this template, let's just put in h1 and we'll say contacts. Okay, and then down here, we're going to put our script tags. We don't really need that. And let's go ahead and say export, which means that we can access this outside of this file, and we're going to have a class called default. All right, and then in here, we can define data, which is going to be a function, and we can actually add data to our component. All right, but I'm not going to get to that just yet. We can also have a mounted function, so let's put a comma here, and then we'll say mounted. And just like we saw in the example component, this will run when the component's loaded. So let's just say console.log, and we'll say contacts component loaded. All right, and then let's just do this for now. We'll save it. And then what we need to do is go to our app.js file here and bring it in just like they did with the example. In fact, I'm just going to replace this. So we'll say contacts So we're defining a view component called contacts, and then we want to point to the file. All right, I'm just going to get rid of this and this. All right, now this right here is basically saying that we want everything to happen inside of an element that has the ID of app. So we need to save this, and you'll see that should auto compile. And then we're going to go to our view. So if we go, I'm just going to use the welcome.blade, and let's go ahead and get rid of everything here. All right, and then we'll just put in our basic HTML tags. All right, in the title we'll just say contact store, and in here let's put we're going to be using Bootstrap, so let's say div. Let's give it a class of container, and let's see, in here, remember it has to be an element with the ID of app, and then in here we should be able to put our components. So remember, it's contacts. Okay, so that should work. We also want to bring in our compiled CSS. So up here, let's put a link, and that's going to go to css/app.css, because that's where everything gets piled, and Bootstrap will be included in there. All right, and then we also want to include a meta tag here, or here. All right, and then the name, this is going to be for the CSRF token, and this is gonna protect us from cross-site scripting. So this is going to be token, and then content. We're just going to put some curly braces and use our CSRF_token, just like that. All right, and then we also want to include the JavaScript. Okay, the compiled JavaScript, which includes all the view stuff, and that's going to go down here in a script tag. Okay, and that all gets compiled into the public folder, and then JS app.js. All right, so let's save this, and that should, actually that doesn't need to recompile. Let's go back over here and reload. And there we go. So we're displaying our view component. If we look in the console, we'll hit F12 here, and let's see, let's put that at the bottom and look at the console, and right here you can see contacts component loaded. Okay, so our view component is being loaded. Let's see, data functions should return an object. We're getting that because if we look in our component, this isn't returning anything. So let's just say return, I guess we'll just do that, see if that works. There we go. All right. So now that we have our components set up, we're going to next, in the next video, we're going to create the template. We're going to have a form. We also want to add some functions so that we can interact with our API. We're going to use Axios, which is an HTTP client, and we'll go from there. All right, so thanks guys. I will see you in the next video.